Scar kills Mufasa, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Jacob Wild too. Wait, Mufasa dies?
And welcome to our The Lion King 2019. Jacob, do the air quotes thing with me. Like, I know you can't see us, but we're gonna do them at the same time. You know, the thing with your fingers, the air quotes.
Yeah.
The Lion King 2019 spoiler cast.
Yeah.
Were you doing it, Jacob?
Yep, I was doing them.
Oh man. So first and foremost, Jacob, before we get into the spoilers, and just to be clear, guys, we're being a little bit silly with this, but what I define as spoilers in this case is kind of like what they changed, what they didn't change, what songs work, what songs don't work, what performances work, what performances don't work, that kind of stuff. And we're going to be going over that kind of stuff. So, Jacob, let's get started with kind of like, let's lay the groundwork here with our thesis statements. Basically, like kind of like our thoughts going in and our thoughts coming out, like our expectations going in and our thoughts coming out. You go ahead and get started.
Okay. Now, as you may be aware, like Lion King is probably one of my favorite movies ever. So I mean, obviously, I was a bit hesitant about this. I mean, obviously, what got me interested was the crew behind the Jungle Book, which I think is like probably one of the best remakes that they did. So and I was wondering, and when some of the cast and crew was revealed, I was quite intrigued as well to see it. I mean, obviously, the entire time I remained cautiously optimistic because in the back of my mind, I always said like this could always be like something like too realistic for its own good or something along those lines. You know what I mean?
I mean, yes, I know what you mean. We'll get into that. I do think this movie is too realistic for its own good, but we'll get there.
And as you're about to say, at various points, it fell exactly into that category for me too.
Yeah.
Like this, I'm gonna have to say like this definitely is definitely not a movie I'd remember. Like several movies that make me want to go see it again. This one does not fall into that category for me. Like I had more fun with them. I've had more fun with some other stuff they've done, and even stuff. There's like I think I had more fun watching Aladdin than I did this one.
Oh, Aladdin blows us out of the water for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm of the opinion that I think Aladdin might be the best out of the live action remakes that we've had. This out of the current trend of them, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean, there's things I liked and stuff I obviously didn't. I mean, I'd say it's more on the. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an outright terrible movie or anything like that. I mean, maybe not even mediocre, but just more, okay at bit, like okay, like the lower end of okay. If you get what I mean.
oh yeah, totally.
I mean, not bad, but barely also not that good. I mean, it's not Looking Glass level bad or anything like that, but I mean,
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, nowhere even close to the original at all. If you get my, okay, I'm done now.
All right. Yeah, so Jacob, this was the first movie that I ever saw in theaters. No, not The Lion King 2019. That would be weird. The Lion King 1994 is the first movie that I ever saw in theaters. I was 4 years old at the time. So you can imagine it holds a special place in my heart. I went over this last night with Dragon, and it's a big kind of towering iconic movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's the best Disney Renaissance movie, but it's a very, very significant movie for my development as a fan of film, even that early on in life. And so, yeah, Jacob, I don't know, man. I mean, like you're saying, this really, like, I don't think this is like a ruin my childhood type thing. Like some people are freaking out about. I like, to me, I felt that way more with Dumbo than I did with this. But I mean, having said that, this is firmly like kind of like in the middle tier of quality when it comes to the live action remakes. This year we have
Well, I mean,
Aladdin, which is in the upper tier, and then Dumbo, which is in the lower tier, and this is like kind of smack dab in the middle, I think.
and again, we're using the live action terminology very loosely.
I don't even want to. Let's just kind
I
of
know,
put an asterisk with that for the conversation.
I know.
Okay, but I mean, here's the thing, Jacob. Like, I didn't think that everything was bad about this movie. I mean,
I mean,
I liked some of the character designs. I thought visually, I wish there was more color to it, but visually, in terms of realism, it was definitely a pretty immersive film. I kind of want to see it in 3D, if I'm being honest.
I did see it in 3D.
Oh, how? Okay, well, good, good. This is good barometer then. Is it worth it in 3D or not?
I mean, it's definitely immersive. I'll give you that. Like, you can actually like see into the environment, and
Right. Okay. Because I remember the Jungle Book in 3D being really good as well. All right. Well,
I mean,
suffice to say,
uh,
Jacob, I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
admittedly, probably wait to get it in cheaper 3D, like see it on Tuesdays or whenever the discount days are.
Right. Right.
I mean, honestly, if you asking my honest opinion,
Sure. Okay. Anyways, so suffice to say, Jacob, I think you and I are kind of on the same page. I think you and I kind of can agree that this is a relatively pointless movie, but I think we don't have like the kind of like vitriolic hate that a lot of people have for it. We're just kind of more on the camp of like, well, that was sort of pointless.
I mean, I'm more in the like it was okay kind of field,
Hmm.
but just kind of weird considering usually I'm usually like even trying to find positives in a lot of stuff.
All right, I got to tell you, Jacob, I was kind of worried about this conversation because, like, if you were like, let's say you liked this, let's say you like this as much as, oh, I don't know, something controversially that I didn't like The Incredibles 2 or something like that, then we would have had a conversation on our hands, my friend. Then we would have had a brawl going on.
No, no need to worry about that.
All right, so that's good. That's good. Okay, so let's get things rolling. What we're gonna do here, Jacob? We don't really have a rock solid format in place, but I mean it's the Lion King. We're just gonna go over the big talking points and talk about how they changed it, what works, what doesn't work. First of all, I guess we should get into kind of like a big problem with the movie, which is, and this is kind of just broad spectrum throughout the whole thing. They didn't change much.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, they did. To be fair, the filmmakers kind of did warn us that they aren't changing, that they didn't weren't going to change too much of it, considering like how classic the film is and all that.
I still was not prepared for like 90% of the dialogue to be lifted straight from the original script, Jacob. I
I
really
mean,
wasn't like
I mean,
that was
I mean,
that threw me through a loop.
here's a sad thing. I've seen the original movie. I watched the original movie so much when I was younger. I pretty much have the entire film memorized.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And so
original.
you and I have the exact same issue with it. Like when we hear the exact same lines of dialogue, it just comes across as hollow, even if it is delivered by good voice actors. It's just like honestly, I think the movie is at its best when it does something new, and it very
Oh,
rarely does anything new, but we'll get into the few times that it does.
well, and sometimes even some of the new stuff kind of just falls flat too.
Yeah, we'll get into that. I can't really think off the top of my head what new stuff falls flat, but we'll get there.
I
All
mean,
right.
yeah, like I said, I could pretty much recite almost the entire movie, songs included, off the top of my head.
Nah.
So And like, so I was like, sometimes I was like playing like the matching game to like see if like had the lines like, okay, they're saying this next, and they're gonna say that next. But at least I didn't have that. I
And I
mean,
got
that
to
was.
admit that was super distracting for me, Jacob.
I mean, and obviously I'm trying. I tried not to let the original my feelings of the original not to impact my feelings on this one.
I think if any of the live action movies are inviting the comparison, it is this one though.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point. But like so,
All right, so Circle of Life, Jacob. You know what's sad is that I walked in halfway through Circle of Life because for some reason my theater decided to play less than 10 minutes worth of trailers, which is always how I decide to, how I time out when to show up. So, how was Circle of Life, Jacob? I really want to see it. Like, I am going to see this movie again because my grandma does want to see it, and also because I do want to catch all of Circle of Life.
it's actually, I mean, they did have some. They had some. It was definitely quite interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say. I'm not gonna say it's like it's actually very good. Like,
I mean,
like
it's pretty much shot for shot, but it is a good tech demo, if anything else.
yeah, that's actually the word I was gonna bring up. It
Right, right.
makes. I mean, like so so it's basically a live action shot of the original. I mean, and actually look at it. I mean, it does look really good. But you know what's bizarre though? When I saw it, the bottom of the screen was cut off. Like I could tell, like because
Oh,
like like what's interesting is that like they like you know how like the Jungle Book had like this did had the, like the 2D Disney logo.
yes, yes, yes.
They actually did something of a new one, like come up with somewhat of a new one for this too.
Okay, don't tell me what it is because I kind of want that to be a surprise, but I'm glad that's in there.
I mean,
I'm
like
glad they carried that over.
I don't think it's the same one, but it's like kind of like stylistically similar.
Right, right, right.
But what
Okay.
happened? But what happened was like for some reason the bot like I think the screen that the projector I was watching was like zoomed in a bit.
That sucks. I hate when that happens.
Like the bottom part like you could like couldn't see like the bottom of the Y and stuff like that. So it's like
Right, right, right,
and it wasn't fixed. I mean, obviously it wasn't too much, but it was kind of distracting. I mean, not that it
all
took away
right.
from not that it took away from the movie or anything, of course.
Okay, so I guess what we should do now is before we break down the songs, let's kind of break down the characters that play in the first act really quick. So, first of all, I will say that she would bedel and
She would tell Ejiofor.
she would tell Ejiofor, thank you. Um, Jacob, I honestly think he might be the best voice actor in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely conveys like a lot of power with this voice.
I mean, he doesn't like. Honestly, what I like about him is that he's not as like overtly like Shakespearean the same way that Jeremy Irons is. Like to me, he's more just kind of like shadowy and shady, and but he's kind of like I'm certainly not going to say he's better than Irons. Obviously not. Don't get me twisted on that.
Huh.
But I do think that he is kind of like more real, whereas Irons is like a more traditional, like over the top Disney villain in the great Disney villain tradition. I think this Scar is like a more realistic, like just wayward member of the family that Mufasa kind of like wants to keep around because of the fact that they're brothers. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like I kind of buy it.
and speaking of which, of the new stuff, that's something I did appreciate.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, like it's like basically and like I'm not going to challenge you again.
right.
I mean, look,
um,
like I said, that kind of stuff I did appreciate, and like I said, I will agree with you that and also to be fair, like for a tale that's inspired like partially by Shakespeare, it kind of you can't even like need a Shakespearean style villain.
No. I mean, you're right, and I think it works in animation for sure. But I think in terms of this trying to be a more quote unquote realistic movie, which kind of makes my eyes roll a little bit. I think vocally, Edgy4 kind of achieved that.
I mean, he definitely convinced me. He definitely convinced me for the role. I mean, he's a great Scar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's. Sorry.
sorry, he's go ahead.
Let's talk about the design. That's one of my favorite elements of him. I love how mangy he is. I love how he's like. It almost looks like he's losing hair in some spots of his mane. Of course, the scar is pretty prominent. I really like the way his design looks and the way it moves and everything.
It really gives like definitely gives off a sense of weight and almost like kind of like almost looks like he's almost like trying to keep himself together at all times.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So with Scar comes Mufasa.
Mufasa.
All right, Jacob, I'm sorry. They should have recast Mufasa, man. James Earl Jones sounds so tired in this. I mean, maybe if they would have rewritten Mufasa to be Simba's grandfather and not his father, it would have worked. But man, I love James Earl Jones, but he's sounding more and more like an old man, and he just doesn't have that same youthful energy that he did in '94. And I mean, it is 25 years later, so it's not like it's the man's fault. You know what I mean? Like, physical time has passed. That's what happens. So I don't know, man. I think that I honestly think it was maybe a little bit of a mistake to keep James Earl Jones in as a legacy role. I think they could have gone with someone that would have maybe added a little bit more diversity. Not to say that I don't mean diversity in terms of like skin color. I mean diversity in terms of like maybe like a I don't know, like an Idris Elba or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a more. Go ahead.
Idris that actually would have been a really interesting choice for Mufasa.
That's what I'm saying. So I
I
don't
mean,
know.
and I'm in agreement with you. I was like, he kind of sounds like he's not. I mean, he's probably. I mean, obviously he was into doing the role because he agreed to do so, but it just doesn't seem like he has, like as you said, the same energy. It's like
Uh-huh.
because I mean, he just sounds like there's nobody messes with your dad.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's not like because nobody messes with your dad.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Thank you. It's spot on. Totally spot on. That's the problem. All right, and young Simba, man, young Simba is even worse. He's even worse.
I think he actually played him in the play versions, didn't he?
Did he really? I didn't know that. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's cool if that's true. And I want to emphasize here, my problem with young Simba isn't necessarily the vocal performance, it's the way that young Simba is animated, man. Like young Simba, like Jacob, I saw there's a meme going around where it's like the character models for young Simba in terms of like the facial expressions in the 2D version versus the facial expressions in the 3D version, and you can guess which ones are way more expressive. I mean, young Simba he just feels like it almost feels like I'm watching Babe or something like that, because it's like there's like just such a disconnect there because he is not emoting at all in terms of like what I'm actually seeing on screen. And yet the voice actor's doing an okay job. I mean, I look, if he did play young Simba in the Broadway show, that's cool. I totally commend him for that, but
it turns out I was mistaken. He doesn't.
oh, okay, well, good. Then I don't feel as bad saying that he was a little bit on the plan. I mean, look, I'm just saying compared to Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I mean, again, what we're talking about here is like Jonathan Taylor Thomas had such a rapscallion youthful energy to him. And this kid is just kind of like, "Hey, Dad, you got to get up, Dad."
And speaking of which, I was getting confused. It was young Nala that previously played her in the Broadway production.
Which honestly makes sense because I think young Nala is one of the better vocal performances.
You're not wrong. I mean,
Like she feels like, I mean, she doesn't get a ton to do, but she feels more natural than most of these people.
and here's speaking and going on what you were saying, like if you just took the frame of like the frame of Simba screaming from the first one, it looks like he's
Oh,
actually he's like genuinely in terror, like in shock, like what happened? Like
yes.
you take it from this, it's like okay, it's just a young lion meowing
It's
at
literally a young lion, like slightly opening his mouth.
yeah.
It's in, to quote Red Letter Media, Jacob, oh God, how embarrassing. No, but honestly, Jacob, that is going to be a meme. That is going to be a meme. That is going to be a meme. Like, let's put a pin in that. As we, when we get to the death of Mufasa. But oh man, that is. I've already seen so many people on the internet talking about that very moment you just pointed out. And you're right. It is one of the most like distracting moments in the whole movie. Okay. Let's see. Zazu. Zazu is a character that honestly worked.
I mean, yeah, I like Zazu. I mean, and I mean John. I mean, what his name? John Oliver or whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's John Oliver. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like he's a great fit for Zazu.
I think he was too. I honestly was surprised it wasn't Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't really reckon. I didn't really think it'd be him, but
I'm just saying, I feel like it's a role that like would have fit him. But
and
don't get me
technically,
wrong, John Oliver is great in the role. I really think he is.
and if it was Alan, it'd be two birds he voiced this year.
No, you're right. You're right.
Because technically, he did do the very few vocals that Iago had.
Yeah, yeah, very true. Very true.
But
All
yeah,
right.
like, and it's like it's just the news. kind of like kind of like playing into his like it's kind of like an allusion to what he does. But
Yeah, and I thought the design was pretty on point too. I like that it's a more realistic design bird, but it still keeps the colors of Zazu and kind of the general idea of what he is.
and if I might, I don't think I'm mistaken here, but he's actually a bit more involved with the plot this time too.
A little bit, a little bit.
I mean, not by much, but he's definitely in more than he was last time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Although we cut out the "it's a small world" bit.
Yeah, I mean I mean that scene probably wouldn't have worked as well here.
No, you're right. You're right. Okay, let's see. We'll get to Rafiki when we get to the second act. We'll put a pin in Rafiki. Let's talk about the hyenas for a second because I thought the hyenas were a really mixed bag. I like Shenzi a lot. I kind of love what they do with Shenzi. I love how they kind of explain the kind of like the rocky alliance that Scar and the hyenas have with each other. On the other hand, Jacob, what I was disappointed in with these hyenas was, I'm sorry, man. I'm a fan of Eric Andre and Keegan Michael Key individually, and I'm sure they're funny together, like if they're on stage together and whatnot. But Jacob, to me, and I feel free to disagree with this because Dragon, Dragon was really looking forward to this. And I've heard other people say that these two are a highlight of the movie, so feel free to disagree with me on this. But to me, I thought that the humor of that duo stuck out like a sore thumb.
It was kind of out there, but I actually did find some of their things funny. I mean, they didn't really have much to do after they ran off Simba, but
I mean, you know what my problem is that I miss Ed. I miss the pantomime one, Jacob. I think they should have had a pantomime one. Dude, Jacob, Ed is everyone's favorite character.
I like Ed.
But seriously, what do you think of the kind of like rocky alliance that Shenzi and Scar have with each other?
I like the interesting take on like how he's not aligned with them from the very beginning. I thought that was
Yeah,
like a
I thought that was honestly probably one of the better changes in the. Again, when this movie actually does change some stuff around, it works. I think.
yeah.
All right.
I thought it was pretty interesting. It's like it kind of hits like okay, Scar. Okay, Scar has to be careful with these things, but it also like shows him in like how much of a skilled manipulator he is. Even more, like it shows even more how much of a great manipulator he is.
Mhm. Okay, so Jacob, let's quickly go through the rest of the songs in Act One and kind of build to the death scene. I just can't wait to be king. Jacob, this is one where it's kind of on my lower tier of Lion King songs in general, but I was kind of excited to see how they were going to tackle it because, of course, it gets really surreal and stylistic in the original. And Jacob, I gotta say, I kind of love this sequence.
I
like
mean,
I really hesitate to say that because I don't want to love anything about this movie, but Jacob, this had a lot of energy to it. I love how they just decided to use the watering hole as a set piece. It had a lot of different animals. It had a lot of the same iconography as the original, like more than I thought there was going to be.
obviously they couldn't.
And
Obviously they couldn't go wild with the colors.
right. But yeah, I mean, Jacob, I got to admit, at that point, watching the movie, I was like, this is good. Like, I was like, this might not be Aladdin good, but this is like, I'm with this. You know what I mean? I'm gelling with this. This is kind of my jam. Like, I'm like, this is like it's the original. It's what I know and love, but interpreted in like a slightly new way.
I mean, pretty much how this would work in this kind of style.
Yeah. By the way, Jacob, I forgot to ask you, do you have the comments pulled up or do you want me to pull them up?
I don't have 'em- I don't have it. I can go there.
Okay. Yeah, because there might be people in the chat. So I apologize, folks. We should have been watching that from the beginning. All right, let me know when you're there, Jacob.
I'm there.
Okay, anyone in the chat yet?
Well, we have two comments from someone named Romella Malone.
Yes, Romello. Yes, he requested our original Lion King retrospective. What does he have to say?
James Earl Jones sounds like he's tired when voicing Mufasa. Like, I felt bad for young Mufasa when he's being manipulated by Scar and told Simba to run away.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. James Earl Jones is I mean, like I said, I love James Earl Jones. I think if we would have gotten like an Idris Elba or someone like that to voice Mufasa, I think it could have had a way fresher take on the character.
It would have been interesting if they got like James Earl Jones to voice Rafiki even.
Oh, that would have. Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. Hmm.
Keep him in the movie, but uses like more understated voices, someone like Rafiki.
Right. Yeah.
Considering as we talk about later, this movie does kind of understate Rafiki a bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
But
Okay. So yeah, I just can't wait to be king. It is a winner in my eyes. It is a like to me it is probably like I it's not as good as this, but it is probably the movie's Friend Like Me. I mean, don't get me wrong, Friend Like Me in Aladdin is fantastic. Like that's a fantastic sequence in the remake. But
yeah,
this is like it's good, it's solid. It got my toes tapping, it got my nostalgia feels of flowing. You know, I quite enjoyed it.
I did too.
All right. Let's see. So okay, friend like me, I'm sorry, I just can't wait to be king. Oh, okay, so quickly, let's go over the elephant graveyard stuff, which, I mean, frankly, this is the first point in the movie where I was starting to be like, oh boy, they're just kind of like recycling a bunch of the same lines, and it's just not as good. And I kind of had a sinking, Jacob, basically, the scene that did it for me, the scene um, where I kind of realized this movie was just not going to live up to anything was when you pointed it out perfectly. The big Mufasa like father son lesson speech, like the kings in the sky. Jacob, I mean that is like almost word for word from the original, and it's like I feel nothing from it, my friend. There's just like I mean, maybe if they would have slightly reworked it, maybe if they would have had it in a different setting. I mean, I don't know. It is so it is so on point to the original that it hampers it.
And really, really the only thing that they changed in the entire series was like there were more hyenas, and the fact that Nala was more nervous about going in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and to be fair, the escape from the hyenas is actually still pretty intense.
It is. It is. I'll
but I
give you that.
but I see what you're saying. It just, I mean, I don't think even heck, even such a, I'll be kind of controversial. I don't think even a lot of the music was as good as it was before. Like not just
Okay, well, let's get into that. Oh boy, fucking be prepared. Fuck me.
yeah, that was
What was that?
yeah, I was like at first I was like, wait, he's rhyming. I was like, I mean, at first he was just talking and rhyming, but
Right, right,
I mean,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is pretty much what happens in the original soundtrack version.
Oh my god,
But
Jacob, this was a moment in the theater where I wish so bad that I just had the theater to myself so I could just fucking start ripping the movie.
yeah, I was
I
like,
mean, I just, oh man, oh, folks, like the father son bonding stuff is weak, but be prepared is atrocious. I mean, be prepared is like the antithesis of I just can't wait to be king. It's like they strip out everything that makes that song good. And I mean, here's the thing, Jacob. Here's the thing. All right. I get that they don't want to do the Nazi imagery. Like, obviously, you're not going to want to do that in 2019. I totally understand that. But is the solution to just do nothing then? To just do Scar like weekly being like, oh, be prepared for sensational news. Yeah, he's just trying. Jacob, he's just like talk rhyming and climbing a small hill. It's so weak.
and for all his acting chops, like he didn't really seem like he put all. I mean, I'm not sure about how well Chiwetel can sing, but it just didn't seem like
No, no. I mean, I like I said, I like him in the role. I think he is one of the better voice actors in this movie. But man, in this song, he drops the ball for sure.
like. I mean, I don't know how well he can actually sing in real life. I mean, I'm not going to discount him there, but at least here, it just didn't seem like he gave much effort into it.
Hmm.
It just like that's like one of the most, and that's like one of the most iconic songs in the film, and like probably like one of the most iconic villain songs in all film history.
Yeah, it is. It's up there. It's up there.
Not just animation, but pretty much film. So, and
Um, I
and,
mean,
and, and
Jacob, I have a feeling this is gonna go down as like probably one of the more infamous things about this movie.
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I was like, wait, when it was over, I was like, I thought when he was climbing, yes, my teeth and ambitions are bare. I was like, are they gonna? I was like, is this just the beginning? Like, as he was like kind of calm
I
throughout
was
the whole
kind of hoping that was the case. Yeah.
because it's like kind of calm throughout the whole thing, and he was like, I was hoping he was like building his eyes, and it felt like it was building to something, and in the end, it just kind of came across as anticlimactic in a way. Like okay, he just said those words, and now they're on his side.
Right.
Instead he like this rousing, powerful songs like "Be with me, and you'll never go hungry again." Instead, it's like, yes, my teeth and ambitions are bad. Be prepared.
Yeah, spot on, Jacob. Spot on.
Like,
Really
like I
spot on. You kind of hit the nail on the head with that.
like I said, I have the entire like pretty much the entire first movie like the entire I can't say first movie, but the original movie like in my head like no now like how all these things go. It's like that. This is not be prepared as far as I'm concerned.
It's really not at all.
I
All
mean, it
right.
might. I mean, in, it would have been just been actually pretty much would have been better if they just didn't leave it in at all.
I kind of agree. I kind of agree.
I mean, as sad as that would have been, it would be better than this.
It would be better than just like, what the fuck? What are they doing? This is just, I mean, it's just baffling when you see it in the actual movie.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
I mean, there could have been plenty of ways to pull that off. I mean, pull stuff like that off without necessarily having to go over the top like they did with the original. But I
I
mean,
mean, just keep all the volcanic, like, the volcano setting of the original, but just don't have the Nazi marches.
And to be, I mean, and if they could have taken out some of the other stuff later to make room for this.
Yeah, yeah.
This could, if done right, even like I said, I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't really know how complex it would have been to pull off. But look at us, all the other stuff they pull off. It couldn't have been that hard. Well, obviously it's hard, but you get what I'm saying, relatively speaking.
All right.
Because obviously it wasn't easy to make this movie.
Sure.
So
Okay. Well, let's move on from that. I don't want to dwell on that too much.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. So the Stampede is just, I don't know, man. It's just not the same caliber. Like, honestly, I think the CGI is more impressive in the original than it is in this.
Yeah, especially for the time.
Right, right.
It just, you could actually see, obviously there's a whole crap ton of buffaloes, not buffalo, wildebeest or whatever. I was about to say buffaloes, wildebeest here. But you could actually see the weight of them in the original. It felt just you get what I'm trying to say. And
These felt very copy and paste, and the originals were copy and paste too. They were
they
literally
did.
copy and paste based on the technology. But I think it's just the way the scene was edited and cut together and with the music and everything. Whereas this, it's like they don't really try and hide the fact that it's just like the same model over and over and over again.
And heck, and that kind of thing worked for the original. It's like they kind of have to for the sake of that scene.
And it's like that scene was like a historical scene in terms of like the number of animated characters on screen at the same time.
And the thing is, you can, when you see them running down the cliff in the original, it's like, oh shit. But in here, it's like, the cliff isn't nearly as high as it was before. They're not running down
No,
the.
it's kind of like just a gentle incline.
Yeah, in the original, it's like they almost had this. I'm not gonna say supernatural, but otherworldly force about it.
Sure, sure.
And here it's just like they're just jumping down the cliffside.
Jacob, the best way I can describe this whole scene, like in Mufasa's death and everything, is it's just the movie on autopilot, man. It's the movie going through the motions. You know what I mean? It's like
Well,
like we see all the same stuff go down, but it just has none of the same impact.
they kind of have to do the retell. They can't have Mufasa not die.
No, I mean I understand that, but at this point it gets so shot by shot. And like I said, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where a little bit of creativity in terms of how they staged it would have gone a long way instead of just like literally repeating all the same shots. Because by them repeating all the same shots, all it does is remind us of how it was in the original. And then we end up with that stupid Simba meme of, the lion on the cliff as the camera pulls back, barely opening his fucking mouth as he's yelling no.
Yep.
So I don't know. I obviously they need to have the same story beats go down. I just think visually they could have told it in a way that was unique to this movie.
And really the only thing they changed was Scar didn't hit Zazu.
Right, pretty much.
He just sent Zazu back for help.
Which honestly, I gotta say, I kind of like that moment because I like that Zazu and Scar are cordial with each other. It kind of makes the backstabbing even sting even just a little bit more.
makes more
Anyways,
sense to just Makes more sense to just him smacking him out of the way.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. All right, so I mean, I don't know what to say about the corpse because it's just obviously it's a big moment, but I don't know. It's the original is just so ingrained with me that nothing's ever going to top that on an emotional level ever.
And before that, what about the whole "Long live the king" moment?
I mean, we already kind of talked about that with the cliff, but yeah, I mean, everything is just kind of like not great.
And he's like, "Long live the king."
Yeah.
I kind of like the whole whispering part better. But "Long live the king." It just doesn't. It just sounds like he's more like just like just saying it for general purpose. At least they like referenced it earlier in the movie, but it just felt like he just like and he just like scratches his eye and like pushes his legs and he falls.
Yeah.
But about Mufasa, yeah, like of course they can't really show it, you know, any more than what they could before.
Look, I understand that. In this scene, I kind of have to give a free pass to, just because it's like, I'm glad they included it to begin with. Like, they could have just not shown the body for, to make it a little bit more palatable for kids. Like I said, I think my issue with this scene has nothing to do with the movie and more the fact that like the impact is so much less because let's face it, like a huge percentage of people going to see this movie, like even the kids in the audience, probably already know that Mufasa was going to die. So it's kind of like it feels more like an exercise in inevitability than an exercise in pathos.
I mean, I don't doubt you there. Admittedly, I did tear up a little bit when I saw him cut when saw Simba curling up with Mufasa. I mean, that part still got me a little sad.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, mainly, that's one part where the realism kind of it's really like one of the few times where being completely realistic almost worked in the movie's favor.
Yeah, for sure.
But as you said, it still does not have the same impact that the original one does because you can actually see more emotion on the characters' faces. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way.
All right, so we get a quick hyena chase, which is exciting. We get Scar's runaway and never return bullshit, which I don't want to really dwell on, Jacob, but I think it's a little bit of a plot hole, but I don't want to dwell on that. Dragon and I dwelled on that last night. So let's talk Timon and Pumbaa, who pretty much everyone on the internet agrees is the best part of this movie.
I love. I like these. I like them a lot. I mean, Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen definitely feel like right fits for the parts.
Okay, here's my thing with Timon and Pumbaa, and I kind of recapped this last night. But Timon and Pumbaa, I feel like work better on their own than they do in the middle of this big Shakespearean drama. And honestly, because Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner kind of grounded the characters a little bit more than they were in the original, I think they fit in a lot more. I think to me they feel more like Shakespeare comedic relief characters than like straight up cartoon comedic relief characters. You know what I mean?
Well, not really because even in like in the dark in like some of the darkest Shakespearean dramas, like following a dramatic scene, there'd be these, basically this big comedic relief scene.
But Jacob, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that.
I mean, so even in the original one, after this, they were kind of they didn't even really feel that out of place to me. So I kind of don't agree with you on that one.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. I just feel like in this one they feel a little bit more naturally, like because they're not so over the top. I feel like they fit in more naturally to the environment. I like the fact that their environment, their habitat, if you will, is more fleshed out. That they're not just the only ones living there. I really like that element of it. I love the scene where Simba's like, "Man, I'm so hungry, I could eat an antelope."
Uh-oh.
Like that's great. Um, I don't know. Timon and Pumbaa, their designs I feel like are the only ones that are even slightly expressive.
Well, I think it kind of works with Pumbaa at least because kind of seems like he has like a natural built-in smile and it kind of works for him.
Right, right, right. And Timon, I can kind of just see it in just like the way that he moves his body.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you on those. They definitely did feel a bit more mean-spirited in this movie, but I guess but not like it wasn't too bad.
Uh huh.
I mean, in some places they got I'm not gonna say they got entirely grating, but it just felt like it was like okay, they're just like the whole life is meaningless thing. It's like, isn't that kind of the opposite of Hakuna Matata?
I got to admit, in this part of the movie, I was kind of dozing off a little bit. So any of the changes, I might not have picked up on as much. Because
Fair
at
enough.
this part of the movie, I kind of was like, well, the movie's on autopilot. It's basically the same movie. I'm fucking tired. Let's see. Anything? What do you think about Donald Glover?
I thought he worked for adult Simba. I mean, it's kind of surprising. He actually has a higher pitched voice than Matthew Broderick of all
I
people.
know, right?
But the thing is, it actually kind of feels like a more. To be fair, though, it actually does feel like a more natural evolution of the voice. Like,
It does. It does.
I mean, going from Jonathan Taylor Thomas to Matthew Broderick.
That was never natural to me. Even as a 4-year-old, that wasn't natural.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like his performance as the original Simba, but as I think John Donald Glover is like it just feels like a actual progression of the voice, and he does have the singing chops to back it up too.
Sure, sure.
So he actually does. So I think he was a good choice for Simba.
Uh, okay. So let me see. Do you have anything to say about Hakuna Matata in terms of like how they did the song? Because I really don't. I think they just like. To me, it's almost kind of like it's similar to how they did "I Just Can't Wait to Be King," but I just didn't feel like it was as vibrant as that one. It was just kind of like they were going through the motions without any of the surrealism that the original had.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like the whole thing. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it here. I mean, it's obviously not as bouncy and vibrant as the original one was, but I think it worked for. I think I like Can't Wait to Be King. I think it worked for what it was. I mean, they worked in all the colors with all like the other animals and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And it made my forward with like more characters like pitching in, and I did like that. I mean, I think it's more low key, understated, kind of like as you I mean, going what you word over the top. I think it's more low key than it was
It is.
before,
It is.
which I think in contrast to some of the other stuff actually does fit in with Hakuna Matata.
Yep. Yep.
So I mean,
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it was like a down point in the movie.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Then. Oh man. I guess, do you want to talk about any of the stuff that they added with Scar? Like they put back in the thing with him wanting Sarabi to be his queen. Like, how do you feel about some of that stuff? And then the Nala has an action scene where she escapes. Like, how do you feel about? Because that's honestly some of the biggest padding in the movie. And I don't even say padding in a bad way. I just say padding in terms of like they're padding on to what wasn't in the original.
I mean, going on what you said, like some of the new stuff being like some of the stuff they did right. I mean, I mean, it might have dragged on a little bit, a couple minutes too long, but the overall concept of the scene I really did like. Like it actually like beyond just like the one scene after Hakuna Matata, it actually showed that actually expanded upon what Scar was doing, how it was affecting the kingdom and all that.
Honestly, I feel like this was kind of like a fill in the plot holes type dealio that Beauty and the Beast, the remake of that, was like obsessed with doing. And with that movie, like that movie basically like exists to fill in these types of plot holes. Whereas I appreciate that with this movie, like it wasn't focused on the plot holes, but it did fill in this one and it filled it in quite nicely. You know, the whole like what exactly was Scar doing in his regime? Like what made him such a shitty leader? You know what I mean? Like, because they don't really get into that all that much in the original. So I did appreciate that it was kind of expanded upon.
Yeah, and was there's also kind of I mean this is not plot related, but it's kind of interesting that they actually managed to show blood on his face when after he was eating.
Uh
Like I was actually kind of surprised by like, wait, that's actual blood they're showing on him.
huh.
I mean, okay, but so I really thought it was kind of I thought it was like kind of interesting how they worked all that in. Like okay, like they're actually showing him being a bad leader, and like they're actually like showing the other lion's reactions to him, rather than just like the hyenas coming to him complaining about food.
Uh-huh.
So
All right.
he even like
Cool,
shows the
cool.
lion not being trustful of the hyenas,
Yeah.
and I like how Zazu helped Nala escape and all that.
Yeah, and like I said, that is stuff that is added, that really wasn't in the original at all. So kudos to them. I mean, this movie is getting a lot of shit for just being shot by shot all the way through, and in most cases it is shot by shot. But at least there's a few scenes here and there that are added to give it a little bit more context. You got to give it some credit in that regard.
Yep.
All right. So holy shit, let's get into what is probably going to be, besides Be Prepared, the most infamous scene in the movie, Jacob.
Lay it on me.
Jacob, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Can you feel the love this well lit afternoon?
So
What the fuck were they thinking? You had one job. You had one job.
yeah, I was like, wait, it's not even night.
No, it's not even twilight. It's not even sunset. It's literally the middle of the afternoon. It's like peak. The sun is like at its peak. What?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was
this is already not a great song to begin with. It's already kind of like infamous for just kind of in the original. It's like, all right, we got to get the love story going. A song will, like, it's a good song on its own, but in the context of the original movie and in the context here, it really doesn't work at all. I mean, here even more so.
yeah, it does feel kind of not necessarily out of place. And I mean, I disagree with the whole concept on the original one. I mean, I gave it a pass in the original, but as you said here, it just not even at night. I mean, it didn't even really give off the romantic atmosphere.
It really didn't at all. I mean, it's two lions just running in a field.
And not even in not even in the same way as the original one either.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's quite laughable, Jacob. Like at that point in the movie, I really wished I was in an empty theater so I could just like burst out into a deep guttural belly laugh without being judged by all the parents around me. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so that was ridiculous.
I mean,
We
it's
don't
obviously.
really need to dwell on that.
I mean, as Donovan Martin says, it's great from a visual perspective.
I mean, sure. I think it would have been more impressive if visually they would have been able to show off. Like, look, I'm not even asking for full night. I'm asking like, get that like golden hour lighting. You know what I mean? That like 7 p.m. like the sun's just starting to go down type lighting. I think that would have looked way better. I
I'm
mean, the whole movie is visually impressive to be sure, but yeah, it's just the song is called "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." I mean, that's kind of all there is to it. Again, it's like they had one job.
pretty much.
All right. So let's see, where do we go from there?
Rafiki
Oh, I
just
guess do you want to let's talk Rafiki?
yeah, and like what about the scene where the freaking hair gets to Rafiki?
Yeah, that was overdrawn.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I was like, okay, we're seeing it, and it's the hair just. I mean, basically that scene exists just to showcase, hey, look how good our animation is.
Right.
not that that's a
Okay, so
bad, not that that's a bad thing, but then like, I mean, it could have been fine with just like being carried through like then like what I would have done was like instead of like the giraffe ingesting it, then being rolled by a dung beetle. I was like, that's the first one. I was like, really, movie, really? I was like, you're gonna suggest that Rafiki finds hair that's been through a giraffe, and that's how he finds Simba?
yeah, that was pretty weak. That was pretty weak.
I mean, that's the first time the movie made me like, really? There's like,
All right.
but yeah, Rafiki. I mean, he was fine. I mean, not as
He's
like
okay. I don't think he's nearly as mystical as he was in the original. I don't know. I think he was used so perfectly in the original. He had like just the perfect amount of screen time, the perfect amount of dialogue. He wasn't in it much, but when he just commanded a presence to him. And in this one, he's just kind of fine. It's like he is essentially the same character, but I don't know. There's just something about him that just felt a little off.
not as memorable, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
I
so
mean,
Jacob, another big thing that they just, in my humble opinion, botched. The whole Great Kings in the Sky scene, the whole scene where Simba looks in the clouds and sees Mufasa. I mean, let's build to that. But let's get to one of the most heinous things that they cut. Now this whole movie is basically like word for word, like 90% of the script in the original movie is in this version. But Jacob, in terms of like the big lesson that Rafiki shares with Simba, there is like one really pivotal scene that like really ties Simba's arc together perfectly, and it's a small moment that they just decide to cut out, which is the whole like Rafiki banging him over the head with the stick and be like, "But it is in the past. You can either, you know, you can either dwell on it or you can learn from it." And Jacob, that to me is just like it's baffling. It's like if they're going so far out of their way to include lines of dialogue that were in the original, and they just, I mean, I guess my logic is that they just thought the scene was too slapsticky. But you know what? Whatever. It's a hugely important moment of dialogue between these characters.
you're not wrong. I mean, I didn't even realize it, and I didn't realize it at first. But in hindsight, yeah, I see what you mean. It's just
Okay,
basic.
so
It's just basically like he just instantly learns from like I am Simba, son of
yeah,
Mufasa.
yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb.
It,
And then you know what's even more dumb?
like I wasn't even really impressed by Mufasa, the Mufasa in the sky
We
scene.
don't see Mufasa. It's literally just a voice in the sky. They make absolutely no effort to convey it visually at all.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's a bit of a light. There's a light where it kind of like shows his face for a bit, but that's about it.
It's so barely noticeable, Jacob.
Yeah, but like, where's the original? They had like four different versions of it.
It's what were they thinking? Again, it's kind of like the pink elephants in Dumbo, man. It's like they had one job. This is like one of the quintessential images in the movie that they could make even more impressive with this technology, and they fucked it up. They fucked it up. They completely dropped the ball.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to get so impassioned about this, but man, I just when I saw it in the theater, I think that was my soul crushing. Like, yeah, this movie is just not trying at all. It's really not. It's oh man, that was a bummer, Jacob. That was a fucking bummer.
And they didn't even really emphasize the "remember who you are" thing either.
Not really.
They just said, I mean, at least, they did change a good line. I mean, they changed something to like the greatest thing I did as king was having you as a son.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, that really doesn't make you much of a king, then, does it?
Right, exactly.
I mean, that is a good thing to be proud of, but I mean, that's obviously it's a good thing to be proud of, but it really doesn't convey. It doesn't really convey the whole lesson of remembering who you are.
Yeah, it's not great. It's really not great at all.
I mean, they didn't. I mean, they didn't even make a joke after like they did in the original one either. Like, what was that? The weather? I mean, they could have at least like cracked a joke about it afterwards too. I
Yeah,
mean, the original one like had like I'll say the original one actually had guts in that regard, like to crack a joke after such a monumental scene.
yeah.
This one is just like, and I ask again, who are you?
So lazy, so lazy.
For all the for all the technological advancements, it kind of just like fell flat in that
Yeah,
area.
it really did. It fell flat on a script point of view. It fell flat visually.
It's like it's just like just they didn't even multicolored clouds would have been fine. It's just like it's like it's a dark sky and
Just give me
like
something. Just give me something.
it's like it was just like bluish clouds, like dark sky, bluish clouds. Like
All right. Well, Jacob, but we could go on for a while about this, but we need to kind of yada yada our way through the rest of this movie.
I mean, it's just kind of like the scenes where the scenes that shouldn't be as visually impressive are, but where like the scenes that they should have like knocked it out of the park, they're just like, why did you do it like that? It's
Exactly.
like it's kind of some of it just feels backwards.
All right. So, anyways, Simba gets a motivational song. Whatever. I don't really care. I'm totally phased out at this point. I think the Hans Zimmer score in the original was way better. Who cares?
It's kind of sad considering he returned for this.
Right. Let's see. Yada
That's what I
yada.
meant. That's kind of what I meant earlier when I said the music wasn't as good as like the original one won him an Oscar. It's the only Oscar he's ever won.
Which is fucking shocking, by the way.
But
That's an entirely different conversation.
he hasn't. Some of the other stuff he's nominated for, he was best at. He was nominated for Dunkirk, which I don't blame him for losing, obviously. But
That's a whole, again, that's a different conversation. I love the score for Dunkirk.
not as good as the other stuff that came out that year, though.
Again,
But
different conversation.
I
But
know. And I think it's just like, and obviously this movie means a lot to him for a lot of personal reasons, and it's good they even got him back for this.
yeah,
They didn't really do much to change the score either.
no, they really didn't. It honestly sounds like it could have just been like the original recordings.
It doesn't even. A lot of the even like some like even like I said, even the tripping. Speaking of which, like the track where they win, like the Wildebeest track, which already has vocals now, but it just doesn't even feel as intense as it did before either.
Right.
Like it just doesn't have the same kind of. Even the music didn't have the same amount of connection as the original one did.
All right. I'm sorry, Jacob. I don't mean to rush us, but we're getting a little. I want to get this done in the next 10 minutes or so. So let's kind of yada yada through some stuff. Um, let's see. And also, people in the comments, if you have anything specifically that you want us to bring up, by all means, this is the time to do it. We're kind of reaching the end here. Um, okay, let's see. So we get to the big battle, and honestly, I think it's pretty impressive visually. I think they do a good job with it.
I mean,
Like I said, I do like the design on Scar, and seeing him in action in battle mode is pretty cool.
I did, I did really like the way that I did like the battle scene. That's one thing that they really did do well. I'll give them that. It's
Yeah.
like you can actually see like the ferocity and everything going on. Like this is one scene where the realism actually, like I said, worked. One of the scenes where it worked in its favor. Like you could see the ferocity and everything. Like it actually like these actually look like animals going at it, going after each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then like the fire, even the fire and lightning was visually impressive too.
I love Rafiki using a stick like a ninja.
Yeah, like how he's like whacking them again.
uh,
At least they include him whacking a couple hyenas.
Now, Timon and Pumbaa, they basically turned all their stuff into a fat shame joke. What do you think of that?
I thought it was at least it's like they called him a pig, which doesn't upset him. Like chubby, you just call me chubby.
I
Like
honestly think they should have just stuck with the pig. I mean, it's the same thing.
like
It's the same basic idea. Like that
I,
threw me, Jacob.
I am proud of my body.
I
I
mean,
thought
I get what they're making fun of, but it's just they. You know why it threw me is that it was kind of like modern day social satire. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like this isn't Aladdin. Like This is just a different kind of movie and a different kind of story than Aladdin. And so, well, don't get me wrong, the original did have a couple references like Small World and the Hawaiian War Chant and all that. I mean, I don't know, just the whole like we're just gonna take the time to just like do a whole fat shame joke. I don't know, that I wasn't digging that one, Jacob. I thought that was a weird choice.
I thought it kind of worked for the.
I mean, now I'm not. Don't get me wrong, folks. I'm totally with the message of that. It's like own your body. You know what I mean? It's like don't let anyone tell you that the body that you have is the body that you shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like and all that. But it felt a little shoehorned.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it that, but I think it just worked. And actually, a lot of the stuff that's like speaking of the grounding, a lot of the humor for Timon and Pumbaa kind of feels like referencing modern day stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mind that. I mean, did you notice I like the be our guest reference?
Oh, I did notice that. Yeah. You're right. I felt like that was kind of like their they're like, well, we're not going to do the whole Hawaiian War Chant, and we're not going to do it's a small role, but here you get this.
Yeah, I mean, I like that much.
All right.
I mean, what it reminded me though is that the whole fat thing kind of like reminded me that episode of SpongeBob where like Patrick's like, nobody calls me Tubby. Okay, moving on.
Okay, I mean, I really don't think we have much else to say about the final battle except the fact that it's visually impressive, it's engaging, like you said, the realism of the animals actually works in these sequences because you can feel the ferocity. I really don't think we need to say anything more.
I will say though, like in some though in some cases, I just might sound a bit of a sacrilege. Like the battle between Scar and Simba actually does feel a bit more intense here than it did in the original movie.
I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, I see what it is like. It is more realistic for sure. I just think the original had like a big theatricality to it that this one maybe doesn't have.
More intense, and not necessarily better, but more intense and ferocious.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, to be fair, I mean the original was just like them going very slowly, swatting each other at the face.
No, you're not wrong. The original is kind of corny when you break it down. All right. Okay, so yeah, Scar is defeated in much the same way, and the movie kind of pretty much wraps up in much the same way. It's basically the exact same last 5 minutes of the movie.
I mean, except he also tries to turn the thing with the hyenas break down a bit differently though. And I do like what the line Shady delivers. Like you did say one line, you did say one truth though. A hyena's belly is never full.
Yeah, that was cool.
It actually leaves it ambiguous whether or not the hyenas survive.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean,
All right.
Scar's definitely dead, but
Oh yeah, he's long dead. Yes. I mean, like if this was an Ari Aster movie, you just cut to his mangled corpse and the camera would just focus on it for like a solid 30 seconds.
more like probably for more like a minute.
Right. Anyways.
Like here's a shot of Scar's decaying corpse for a minute and a half.
Oh, Ari Aster, you rapscallion, you. Anyways.
Anyway, yeah.
All right. So, Jacob, anything else in the comments going on?
Well, we actually have a couple of things like Donovan and Romello like talking about like Romello likes the Mufasa reflection. Like mainly, I think even brought up the score aspect of it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the score works. I mean, it just doesn't really do much.
It really like I think the problem is it works, but it works because the original one worked. There's really not a lot added here.
Donovan says, "Baby Pumbaa's cute."
Baby Pumbaa is adorable. I will give you that, Donovan, for sure. Not as adorable as Baby Dory, but few things are as adorable as Baby Dory.
And Romello asked, "Do you guys think Simba should have had explained himself to his mother in the other lines why he feels responsible for his father's death?" I mean, I think he had explained. I think Sarabi would understand.
Romello, yes, I absolutely agree with you. You sent that to me on Twitter today. I haven't had a chance to respond because work was pretty busy, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I just think that if the scene would have played out a little differently, like if we would have had a little bit more of an explanation. Now, I heard it argued that it's just like it's a heat in the moment type situation, and
Well, I mean, and that's another thing. Like, it's kind of like a realistic reaction people would have. It's like,
no,
how do you?
you're right, Jacob, and I kind of like I look, I've kind of softened on that just a little bit, but
I saw that. I really like the expanded scene. It's like it's Scar's manipulating. It's like, I mean, Scar. I mean, Simba feels like he was responsible, like not necessarily murdering, but he was responsible for his father's death. I mean, like, what are you? I am nothing. That's like that gets you in the gut. I mean, that got me in the gut.
yeah, for sure. All right, anything else in the comments?
No, that was about it.
Okay, final thoughts, Jacob. What do you got?
Like, I'm still more on the side of like there are some things that worked and quite a few things that didn't. But like I said, I'd see it if you're into it, but I wouldn't go out of your way just to do so. I mean, it. I mean, I think like I said, it's on the lower side of okay, in my personal opinion. I mean,
All right.
visually, obviously, it's groundbreaking, but if you want to see something else from the same crew, I mean, go see Jungle Book and go watch Jungle Book instead.
Yeah, Jungle Book is definitely more. Jungle Book swings more for the fences than this one does, for sure.
Yeah,
Um, sorry, give me one sec.
I'm pretty much done.
Okay, yeah, I know. But yeah, I don't think this is a terrible movie, but I don't think it's a necessary movie either. And sometimes a movie being unnecessary can be that movie's greatest sin, and I think that might be the case here with this one. Um,
Considering it's the 25th anniversary, pretty much, I think it would have been a good idea, like re-release the original again in 3D again.
right. Or I've even heard of just like literally doing a like a 30-minute like essentially a 30-minute tech demo, right? And just cutting together iconic moments from The Lion King and like premiering that in like the Disney parks or something like that, having it be exclusive to the Disney parks. I mean, I don't know. I think something like that would have been a lot cooler and a lot more exclusive and a lot more like it doesn't feel completely pointless.
What I'd like to see with this is like they were done with the Jungle Book. They obviously did heaps and mounds with this movie, but or whatever that phrase. I think I just mangled that phrase, but like make an original project with this kind of
Yeah,
technology.
absolutely.
I mean,
Can agree with
obviously,
you more.
I mean, we know John Favreau and all of then this team of animators. Obviously, they have the talent.
Hmm.
So bring forth the great passion project that was previously deemed impossible. I mean, like this technology is great. Is if Disney be more willing to do that, I mean, I'd say go for it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Jacob. I'm totally with you. I think that's a great idea. I think it's a great point to end off on. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this one. And Dragon and I are kind of contemplating different Lion King podcasts we could do. We might do Lion King 1.5 soon. We might do the Timon and Pumbaa virtual safaris that were on the DVDs. So expect some of that sometime soon. And in the meantime, folks, just I don't know. This movie kind of sucked the life out of me. I have no clever reference here. Have a good night,
Hakuna
everyone.
Hakuna Matata.
Timon!